Hey YouTubers, welcome back. This is Eli the Obedy Tech. It's a continuation video of this 2001 Chevy Suburban 5.3 liter engine. As you saw from the previous video where I replaced the intake manifold gaskets to resolve a P0174 Bank 2 System 2 lean, we saw that issue was fixed, but at the same time the truck was still having issues with high fuel trims as I raised the RPMs. So that led me to suspect perhaps a master flow sensor, as I pointed out that the master flow sensor was under reporting. It was in the 4 point something range on grams per second. This is a 5.3. Our grams per second should be anywhere from 5.2 to 5.4 grams per second at idle. And at the same time, maybe potentially fuel delivery issue, perhaps injectors being dirty, fuel pump not delivering sufficient fuel pressure, or even a clogged fuel filter. So after 2 weeks since I gave the vehicle owner the truck, he's brought it back to me to diagnose this continuing issue of fuel delivery. Fuel trims going high as you raise the RPMs. The customer did go give me the okay to go ahead and do a fuel system maintenance by doing a fuel filter and fuel injection service, which I'm going to show you guys if that improves the fuel trims before I check the master flow sensor. Alright, so before I go into data pits, let me go ahead and show you guys that the truck has no codes since he took it 2 weeks ago, since I replaced the gaskets on the intake manifold. So as you can see there, it says no trouble code, system normal, which is good, and which resolved that issue. But now we still have, like I said, the issue with fuel trims going high as you accelerate. So let me go ahead and set up the scan tool and show you some data. Alright guys, so those are the data pits. I'm gonna go ahead and start the truck. Here we go. If you guys can see the data pits, there's some glare on it. Sorry about that. It's the best position that I could put it to minimize the glare. Alright, so the first pit that we see, it's a barrel. That comes from the master flow sensor. It's 14.2. That's not bad at idle. The engine's still, it's around 143 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's so it's warming up. Engine load's about 1.9. I believe GM has, it's around that range, I believe, for engine load at idle. I'm not too sure about that, but I think that's around the range. Alright, so long term, bank 1 and bank 2, as you can see, it shows about 16.4, 14.8 at idle, which is still high, above that plus or minus 10%. Our master flow sensor right now shows about 5.5, which is the ideal range at idle. But as the engine warms up, this number is going to keep dropping and dropping until it hits like 4.2, 4.3. So there you go. Still at 5.1. Short term, bank 1, bank 2. It's still within that range of plus or minus 5%, which is good. Now the next key right here is to raise the RPMs, and let's watch our long term bank 1, bank 2, and see how fuel trims behave. As I told you guys, I believe I'm suspecting a mass airflow sensor issue here. 12, 14, they dropped a little bit as I raise the RPMs. Right now, you know, they're not too bad. About 2,000 RPMs. So shows a steady fuel trim at 12.5 for 2.0. Now as I let go of the gas, it went back to 16 and 14. We know it's not a vacuum leak, or else these numbers would have gone below 10%. Alright, so right now our massive flow sensor is showing about 4.7, so it already dropped below 5 grams per second. Eventually it will drop, I think close to 4.3, if I remember from the previous video. But it's going slowly as the vehicle warms up. I believe this massive flow sensor will drop close to 4.3 grams per second. So here we go again. I'm going to raise the RPMs. Bank 2 went up, 19, 17. Bank 1 is not too bad, still stuck at 12.5. It's about 2,000 RPMs. I'm going to hit about 23 right now. About 25. Wow, you know, they're not really behaving too crazy right now since the last time I had it here 2 weeks ago. But as you can see, fuel trims are still high, 16 and 14. They do tend to rise up. So, like I said, I will be performing a fuel system service, and by doing a fuel injection cleaning and doing a fuel filter replacement, and let's see how fuel trims behave, or if it even improve or not. See, right now massive flow sensors now went down to 4.6, so it is dropping. Remember, ideally this should be anywhere from 5.2, 5.4. I guess the worse as this number gets, I guess the fuel trims will get worse, or start behaving like more of a, you know, higher percentage as I raise the RPMs. As I do a snap throttle, we see that our fuel trims do go high on bank 1, bank 2 long term. Short term is not too bad. They're still ideal between plus or minus 5%. It's just the long term memory. There you go, 16, 19. There you go, 16, 19. I'm at almost 2,000. Now 15, 19. 16 on bank 1. Alright, so master flow sensor, like I said, it already dropped to 4.4, 4.3. I guess so. Like I said, the worse that grams per second get, or the lower it gets, the worse the fuel trims on long term get become worse as I raise the RPMs. At idle, that's okay, slightly above the plus or minus 10%. Here we go. I'm gonna raise the RPMs one more time. Went up to 16 and 19 in bank 1 and bank 2. Short term is not too bad. Hopefully the camera's picking that up for you guys. Alright guys, so I guess the next step is to go ahead and do that fuel service and see if there's any fuel trim difference. Alright guys, so I wanted to show you guys the fuel gauge. with the vehicle idling. The spec should be anywhere from 45 to 59, as you can see in the top corner. The engine idling. Currently it shows about 50 psi, which is within that spec. Ideally it should be about 52. If you take the average of 45 to 59. Now, so I'm going to perform a snap throttle to see if the fuel pump is able to deliver sufficient fuel pressure as I do a snap throttle. So here we go. If it drops, that means it's a fuel pump issue, or maybe perhaps a fuel filter too. Here we go. It did dip slightly, but still within that spec of 45 to 59. Here we go. The good thing is that our fuel pressure is actually rising as I do the snap throttle, that's a good sign. But the fuel pump is able to deliver enough fuel pressure with the higher RPM. So here we go. So far I'll say I'm ruling out the fuel pump. Perhaps, I don't think it's the injectors. Maybe it could be slightly dirty. I don't think it's the fuel pressure regulator, which lives on the other side of the intake plenum. The common problem too is that those tend to leak, but that would have gave us a rich fuel trims. In other words, negative fuel trim numbers. We have positive. If all goes good with performing the fuel injector service, this will be perhaps the next component that's probably causing this fuel trims to go high as I raise the RPMs. This is a master flow sensor here. Alright, so let me go ahead and perform this fuel injection cleaning, fuel filter replacement, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so I already did the fuel injection cleaning service. As you can see on the top left corner, the image. I use my OTC fuel canister kit. So here we go. So this is a moment of truth to see if doing a fuel injection clean service does help with this fuel trims, or if the problem does lie within fuel delivery. If not, master flow sensor, but I still have to replace the fuel filter. So here we go. So right now fuel trims are still stuck at 16.4 and 4.8 with key on, engine off. So here we go. Let's let short term fluctuate. So once we see these two pits fluctuate, then we know that it's in closed loop. Then the short term is going to start correcting. So there we go. They're fluctuating now. Let's see if this does improve our fuel trims with this fuel injection cleaning service. Remember, here's our master flow sensors. Shows about 4.3, which is 1 gram less than where it's supposed to be, around 5.3. Like I said, I'm still suspecting master flow sensor being the problem here. Next step is to go ahead and raise the RPMs to see if that improves. Okay, they're going back up again. Bank 1 is 15.6, bank 2 is 17.1. Short term is not too bad, still within plus or minus 5%. A little bit higher on the RPMs now. Barrel still at 4.2. RPMs. Still behaving about the same as before cleaning the injectors. (16 to 19). This is at idle now. Now it shows 16, 17. So we don't see no improvement here. I will perform an injector flow test off camera, just to get the flow rate on each injector, and I'll write it down and and just bring that into the attention later on. But so far, I'll say this fuel injection clean surge didn't really do anything to improve fuel trims, but I'm pretty sure it did help the injectors out, with their spray, hopefully with their spray pattern. So 16.4, 17.9 on long term, bank 1, bank 2. I'm gonna rate the RPMs one more time. 16 to 19. Alright, so next step is to go ahead and do the fuel filter replacement. Here's a part number 1. It's an aftermarket. Usually it's best to replace it with the original AC Delco. It's a microguard, part number 33481. So that's the next step, to go ahead and replace that filter, and I'll bring you guys back with the same data pits. Alright guys, so this is a moment of truth once again by replacing the fuel filter. As you can see to the image to your left, brand new filter replaced. So here we go. It's the key on, engine off. We'll start the truck. See what happens. So we gotta wait for fuel short term to start fluctuating. So it goes into closed loop. Let's see if the short term does correct our long term. Alright, so short term's fluctuating already. Fuel trim's still 16.4 and 14.8 at idle. I don't see no corrections on short term. They're not going negative. So that shows that replacing the fuel filter has done nothing to it. So now I'm just pretty much going into the master flow sensor as being the culprit problem for fuel trims being high at idle and increasing as we raise the RPMs. See, short term is not doing anything. It's not even correcting. It's stuck at positive short term fuel trims. They're not going negative on us. So here we go. I'm gonna raise the RPMs. .6, 17.1. Alright, so now I've also noticed as our grams per second dropped to between 4.3 4.4, our engine load's around 1.569% now. Before it was at 1.9, so it did drop a bit. Like I said, I'm not sure if that's the spec. If GM has it at 2%. If that's the case, then it did drop by 0.5%. So there you go, guys. It's not a fuel delivery issue. It's going to be an air delivery issue, and the culprit component would be the mass airflow sensor. The component that's causing this long term on bank 1 and bank 2 to increase as we raise the RPMs. Here we go. Alright, so the next thing is to go ahead and attack the master flow sensor. So let me set up the scan tool to perform some tests on it, and I'll bring you guys back. Alright guys, so I got the 3 pits here. I will be performing the snap throttle test by using the engine load, engine speed, and the master flow sensor, grams per second. By doing this test, I will see if the engine load is responding by going above 80%. At the same time, the grams per second should also spike up. I'm not sure if this test does work with trucks. I've never done it in the past, so I'm not sure if this actually works, but this is a test that you can perform to verify if the master flow sensor is actually measuring proper airflow through the hot resistor. Maybe this only works for small vehicles. I'm not like 100% sure. Like I said, this is the first time ever doing it on a truck. So far at idle, we see that our engine loads of 1.5, almost 1.6. I believe for this GM truck, it should be around 2%. So that's already a flag. And then the master airflow sensor showing about 4.1, 4.2 at idle. That's also a flag. Remember, this is a 5.3 liter engine. It should be close to 5.2, 5.3. So here we go. I'm going to do a snap throttle. This may work or may not work, but this number should go above 80% or higher. Here we go. The highest was like 3.1. Like I said, this may work or not. Here we go. 4.3. Our grams per second was almost 90 grams per second. .5, still not good. That should at least go above 30 or even 40. Alright, 38%, that's not too bad, but still ideally 80% or higher. Like I said, not sure for trucks if this actually works or not. One more time. About 36 right there. Alright guys, so I guess the next step, this is not really conclusive here. If the master flow sensor is measuring correctly, since I never saw the engine load go above 80%, like I said, this may not work for trucks. So the next step I'll be performing is the RPM test by using, since this cancel doesn't allow me to convert grams per second to pounds per minute, I'll be using another scan tool, and I'll show you guys how to perform that test. Hopefully that works or gives a better conclusive results if the master flow sensor is working or not. Alright guys, so I'm using my old CJ4 scan tool. It doesn't matter what scan tool you use as long as it gives you that pound per minute. So far at idle, it's at 0.05 pounds per minute. RPM base average at idle is around 550. So if we double the RPM times 2, that's about 1100. So this test is going to pretty much show us if the master flow sensor is able to report properly by measuring the air through the resistor, through the hot resistor. So if I go to 1100, this number should double up to 1.0 pounds per minute. So here we go, 1100. that's pretty much close to 1100 here. So far it is reporting properly as 1.0. Now what if we triple it? If I triple this number to 1650, this number should be around 1.5. So here we go. Alright, 1650 does show 1.5, which is good. It is reporting properly, believe it or not. But with this test here, I'm gonna quadruple it now to 2200. So this number should go to 2.0. So here you go. So 2200, it does show 2.0 pounds per minute. There you go. At least on this test, the mass airflow sensor does pass. But when when I performed the engine load test, we saw that the highest peak at engine load was about 36 point something at it, with the snap throttle. So which test is accurate? I don't know. Since one test does show that it's reading properly and the other one is not. So I guess the next step is just to go ahead and replace the mass airflow sensor. I did go early in the morning to the junkyard and got myself a used mass airflow sensor. I'm not sure if this works out by replacing the mass airflow sensor, then that's all to the customer. If he wants to purchase a used mass airflow sensor from me or replace it with a brand new one, I'm not sure yet. We'll see. So the next step is to go ahead and replace the mass airflow sensor. I'm not gonna do no voltage checks like power and ground. I don't think it's necessary since the mass airflow sensor is not behaving all like crazy. But it is under reporting. Let me take it back. Let's go back to grams per second. Go back to metric. You can see right now showing about 4.04 grams per second, 4.1. That's way below the 5.3. Or this is a 5.3 liter engine. Our grams per second should be around that range. Alright, so next, like I said, it's time to replace the mass airflow sensor with the used one that I got from the junkyard this morning. So here we go. Alright guys, so this is the used mass airflow sensor here. It's a junkyard. I try to get one that looks pretty decent. Resistors look clean. That's the original. So time to replace it. Alright. I did verify the part number, which is just below the, I'm not sure if it's pronounced Delphi. It's a 25 16 84 91. Same thing right there, 25 16 84 91. Same part number for a 5.3 liter engine. I'm not sure if it's different for a 4.8. Alright, so this is a moment of truth. I've already replaced the mass airflow sensor. You can see on the image to your left. There we go. I'm gonna start the engine. And let's watch our long-term, short-term fuel trims. Let's wait until it goes to closed loop. When we see the short-term start fluctuating. Right now showing about 18.8 on both long-term fuel trims on bank 1, bank 2. Our mass airflow sensor, grams per second, shows about 5.1. So there we go. We do see long-term dropping. Short-term is correcting. And that's what we really want to see. Our mass airflow sensor shows about 5.3. That's so far pretty damn good. As the memory cells start relearning through the short-term fuel trims, our long-term should be back to between plus or minus 10%. But the whole goal here is to have this mass airflow sensor stay above 5 grams per second. As long as it stays above 5 grams per second, between, I'll say 5.2, 5.4, then we're good. That pretty much going to show that our problem was the mass airflow sensor was underreporting, which was dropping below 5 grams per second. This is pretty much perfect right here. This is ideal right now. Oh, we saw a little bit of a jump right there on bank 1 long term. Short term is correcting once again. Bank 2 long term 0.8, still good. Grams per second still shows 5.1. It did drop below 5 grams momentarily. Our next step is to go ahead and raise RPMs. See, now our long-term fuel trims are not going up now. They're staying steady. They're actually below 10%. Like I said, as memory cells start relearning, we should be back to normal, between plus or minus 10%. So far, bank 2 is the one that's still being affected so far. It shows on long term. Bank 2 still shows perfect, 0.8. So now, since we fixed one problem, like the second problem, which was a mass airflow sensor, and we did the injector cleaning, the fuel filter, maybe since we couldn't really see the fix with the faulty mass airflow sensor, now we're seeing another problem, a third problem now on bank 1. But still, 10.2 is not too bad. Our mass airflow sensor still shows above, above 5 grams per second. Ideally 5.2, between 5.2 5.4. But still 5.1 is not too bad. 5.0 still slightly low, but still good. So now the next step is to go ahead and do the snap throttle again with engine load and the mass airflow sensor. So there we go. Let me go out from here. Graph. It's already loaded. Oops, there we go. See, our load percentage around 2.0. I believe that's the spec for this truck's GM's 2.0. With the other mass airflow sensor was showing about 1.5. Here we go. So I'm going to do a snap throttle, and this load should go above 80% or more. Like I said, I'm not sure if this works with trucks. So here we go. I didn't do much right here. I'm going to go do it one more time. Here we go. Our highs was 12.2. So probably this test doesn't really work with trucks. 10.6 on the load. There you go, 40.4. At least it went a little bit higher than the other mass airflow sensor. This one was 36. 35 there. So maybe this is not really ideal for trucks. With cars for sure. But this was an improvement here with the low percentage at out 2.0. Our grams per second hovering anywhere from 4.9, 5.1, which is way better than before. Maybe this mass airflow sensor does need a cleaning. Remember, it's a used one. So long-term bank 1 still shows 10.2. Bank 2, perfect, 0.8. Is that, you know, these are the memory cells from the old one. As the vehicle gets driven, you know, that should improve. The important thing is that these are not going up anymore. They're staying below 10%. Right now that one did go up above. So the best thing is to go ahead and just, you know, drive the vehicle for a bit, and I'll come back. Alright guys, a little quick update here. I took the truck for a quick drive on the freeway. These are the fuel trims now at idle. Most important, our grams per second are within the 5.2, 5.4 range, which is good. Remember, this is a 5.3 liter engine, so that's where the grams per second should be, around that range. Long term, bank 1, bank 2, below plus or minus 5%, which is damn good. Next step I'm going to do is just raise RPMs. Fuel trims do rise, but still stay within the plus or minus 10%, which is still normal. As a vehicle owner drives this truck more and more, these fuel trims should get much better. That's 1200 right there, about 1500. Still less than plus or minus 10%, which is good. 1800. So that shows that the memory cells on the long term are correcting. So there you go, 2000, still less than 10% on the long-term fuel trims. So there you go guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was a tedious process here by doing the fuel system first, which did not help at all. And like I said, I was suspecting a mass airflow sensor that was underreporting as being the culprit problem here with the high fuel trims. Alright guys, so this is Eli the OBD Tech. Subscribe if you like.